What are the top 10 secondary weapons in Warframe right now? Are pistols, weapons that can back up your primary weapon and deal enough damage to help you out and kick feckin' ass when missions get a little bit hectic. And no, the Kraken didn't make the list. It's about as useful as a handbrake on a canoe, or tits on a fish, or Stevie Wonder's limo service. It's only going to get you feckin' killed. Kraken fans right now are triggered. If you've played the game long enough, then there's a very good chance that you will know exactly what the so-called top 10 secondary weapons are and won't really need this list, or you will have a good idea what weapons share the same tier. In fact, some of you just wanted this top 10 list to consist of one weapon. Have that weapon be at number 10, and then from 9 to 1 I was to refer you all back to number 10, because you're feckin' messers, the lot of you. So, very quick disclaimer, like my top 10 primary weapons video, I asked you guys in its comment section to list off what you thought was the top 10 sidearms in Warframe, and a lot of you responded, so that's exactly what this video is. Your list made by you guys, but edited by a potato. And also, before we get started, let me just say that like my primary weapons video, this list is in no real order. Number 1 is not any better than number 10, and they're all pretty much in the same tier. And if your favourite weapon isn't in the list or didn't get mentioned, that doesn't mean it's a bad weapon, it just means that it didn't get mentioned. There are of course more than 10 top tier weapons, but I'm not going to make a list of 20 because then the video would be too feckin' long. So let's get started, shall we? At number 10 is a serious fan favourite, and one that both looks incredible and deals some serious damage, not to mention how amazing it is at popping heads from a distance. Best sniper in Warframe maybe? Who knows? It is of course the Law King, or the Lex Prime. Let's be honest here, you all knew that this bad boy was going to be on this list somewhere, right? So let's just get it out of the way. It's a mastery rank 0 weapon that deals primarily in puncture damage, so it's great for motorising the Grineer. It's got a solid crit chance and a solid status chance of 25%, which means it can be modded for a mix of both, or all out crit or all out status. It's entirely up to the user. It's only got 8 rounds in its magazine, which can be a pain in the ass, and its recoil kicks a little bit like a mule, but once you've gotten used to it, it is an absolutely amazing weapon. If you don't have a Lex Prime, then get one, because like I said, it's incredible. Or wait for the Lex Prime, which apparently was data mined a while back. If it's real, that is. If it's real, who knows. Our next weapon is a pair of infested ballsacks. Infesticles. These are the pox, which are a toxin-based throwing sacks, or throwing knives, but not really knives, just disgusting looking sacks. The pox leave a deadly cloud on the ground where they impact, a bit like the Torrid. They're mastery rank 6 and can reach 100% status chance with the right mod setup as well. And the toxic clouds that they leave behind make the pox an incredible weapon for shutting off choke points or hallways and spawn points. Not to mention that those clouds will absolutely melt and nullify in seconds. They walk clean over the gas cloud and boop, the bubble goes pop and you got yourself one dead nullifier. Modded for gas and electric, and these weapons are a serious corpus killing machine. If you like the look of these or want to get your hands on a pair of pox, then you're going to need to research it all in your clan dojo beforehand. Are they worth it? Hell yeah, definitely worth it. But I'm not really sure there's many of you will want to get your hands on an actual pair of infesticles. Next is an old school shotgun sidearm that can deal a serious amount of burst, DPS, and completely feckin' melt a high level enemy in a second. It's everyone's favourite Grineer poopsicle. It is the Brakk. It's ugly, I don't care, I'm saying it. My opinion is that one of the Grustrag tree squatted this thing out after some spicy food. The Brakk is a shotgun sidearm that's mastery rank 0, but you need to kill the Grustrag tree in order to get its parts, then build it, which means you need RNG to be on your side. Running the Law of Retribution raid can be a great way to get all of its parts if you can find enough people to do it. Like I said, it deals really high burst DPS because of its high fire rate, and if you can keybind its fire to your mouse wheel or a macro, then you can empty a full clip in a second. It is incredible to see. It's not without its downsides, however, because being a shotgun type weapon, it means that it suffers from damage fall off from range, and if I'm being honest, at high levels you will need to be up close and personal to make it as effective as possible, which isn't exactly a good idea for certain Warframes. You don't want to be in the face of a level 140 heavy gunner if you've got no way, I guess, of crowd controlling it, because then it's just going to wreck you. But it is definitely an incredible weapon and definitely one of the best in the game. But did I mention that it looks like shit? Because it feckin' does. So our next weapon shouldn't come as a surprise. It's the Vaykor Marelok, which is another Mastery Rank 6 Syndicate sidearm that deals high amounts of crit damage and status chance, as well as having its very own Justice Syndicate effect. The Justice effect, when triggered, will deal 1000 blast damage as well as heal you for 25% of your health, provide a 25% base armor boost, and because it deals blast damage, it will also stagger enemies and give you a small amount of crowd control for a very short period of time. And because the Vaykor Marelok has that high base status chance, it allows you to reach 100% status with the right mods, or you could get close to 100% status and pop the rest of your mods into crit and crit damage so as to ramp up your crit damage potential. This at one stage was my favourite sidearm, and I still have a soft spot for it, but I don't like its design a whole lot. I don't like the way it looks, but it is definitely a favourite of mine. But looks aren't everything, damage is the king here, and the Vaykor Marelok deals a hell of a lot of damage. But is there a weapon that's better than it? Honestly, all of these weapons are pretty much in the same tier, and there's also a good few that weren't mentioned that belong in here as well, and a few that I personally would switch out and switch different weapons in for, but I guess it's all about personal preference and what weapons you yourself prefer. Our next weapon is the Staticor, Warframe's Mega Man gauntlets that deal a feck ton of radiation damage by exploding on the point of impact, but it's got two different fire modes, a normal camera shaking get the feck off me mode and a charged fire mode that will deal increased damage and radius of its explosion. Scream Hadouken if you want when using it, because it doesn't deal any self damage. Go absolute nuts, these things are incredible. The Staticor is a Mastery Rank 5 weapon that you can research in the biolab of your clan dojo, and it deals 140 base radiation damage, and its charge shots take 3 seconds for a full charge but deal a lot more damage. They have a status chance of 25%, which allows you to get a pretty high status chance if you mod for status. It's up to you. Now, I honestly couldn't stress this enough that these weapons deal a pretty obscene amount of damage when you stick a few former on them. Grab a pair if you haven't already, because they are totally worth it. Next up is not one, but two Grakatas. Okay, get it out of your system. Two Grakatas, double the Daka, meet the twin Grakata. These are dual-wielding versions of our primary weapon, the Grakata, because in a game with Space Ninjas, that makes total feckin' sense, right? Two primaries make one secondary. Oh wait, just wait until we get the new multi-Grakata throwing glaive for our melee weapon. Woohoo, that thing's going to be amazing. Big ass feckin' giant Grakata wheel that you can roll down a hallway and mill the crap out of everything. All jokes aside, the twin Grakata also fires 2 bullets each time instead of 1. They have a crit chance of 25%, which can allow them to reach really high crit chance numbers with the right build consisting of hydraulic crosshairs. The biggest problem with the twin Grakata is their ammo efficiency. These things hose down enemies so quickly that you will run dry of ammo in no time, but you will have a shit ton of fun while doing it. Go nuts and run out of ammo. Who cares? Daka all night long. Once you're having fun, feck it. Now our next weapon is an explosive sidearm that can deal a lot of damage and a lot of self damage. It is of course the Kulstar, and it fits in the same category I guess as the Tsar, the Ogress and the Penta, because it wants to kill, it needs to kill, and it gives 0 fecks as to who it kills, including your Warframe. Step carefully when wielding this, because you are 1 cluster bomb away from deep space. Now the Kulstar is a Mastery Rank 4 cluster bomb rocket launcher. It deals a lot of blast damage on impact, and if the initial explosion doesn't work, then the follow-up cluster bombs would definitely do the trick and clear out those enemies. Now this position on the list could have easily been the Angstrom instead, but I think the Kulstar got mentioned slightly more, so that's why it's here. Using this in close quarters is a giant no-no, but on defense missions, say against infested, when enemies are in large groups, it's an incredibly useful killing machine and will help you clear up rooms in no time. Just be feckin' careful, or like I said, you're going to be floating through space dead. Next up on the list is the dual Toxocyst, a Mastery Rank 8 weapon that rewards your headshot accuracy by forcing you not to shoot at the ceiling every second shot. The recoil on these weapons are absolutely nuts. You're going to spend a lot of time looking up, However, successfully landing a headshot with the Toxocyst will temporarily grant you a 150% increased fire rate, additional toxin damage, and reduce your recoil by a hell of a lot and give you unlimited ammo. But this buff only lasts for 6 seconds, so if you're good enough and you can constantly land headshots, then you're going to keep that buff active a lot of the time, which means you will have no recoil, increased fire rate, and deal a lot more damage, which makes the dual Toxocyst absolute killing machines. They also have a base status chance of 35%, which will allow you to reach that 100% status chance if you've got the right mods equipped. And if you're a Mesa main, then her Peacemaker is also affected by that headshot buff, which will give you a much faster fire rate while in her Peacemaker. Awesome weapons if you can master that initial recoil, but they're not for everyone. And that leaves us with just 2 weapons on the list, but which of those weapons are going to get mentioned? Have you been right so far with the weapons that are on the list? Let me know in the comment section below. Now next up is a weapon that honestly I wasn't expecting you guys to mention it as much as you did. It's one of our Syndicate sidearms, it's the Telos Akbolto. And as with all Syndicate weapons, the Telos comes with an innate Syndicate ability. This one from Arbiters of Hexus is called the Truth Effect. The Truth Effect, when triggered, will deal 1000 gas damage in a 25 meter radius and restore 25% of your health, as well as some parkour stuff. But it heals and it deals gas damage when triggered, which is great, especially if you're up against corpus. Now the Telos Akbolto is a sidearm similar to the Bolto because it fires bolts that will pin enemies to walls. They will cause enemies to ragdoll as well when you hit them, which will fire them backwards into other enemies, which will deal damage to them that way as well. So it's a really fun weapon. Its crit and status are pretty average, but they deal a really nice amount of puncture damage, so ideal for going up against Grineer as well. The good thing about the Telos Akbolto is their high damage, their high fire rate, and a large magazine size of 30 rounds. But their bullets have got travel time, which will mean you will need to lead your enemy or aim a little bit ahead of them. And it's a semi-auto pistol, which means you're going to need to spam the crap out of your trigger finger until it hurts. But the Telos are definitely worth checking out. Which leaves us with one spot left, and this is the weapon that so many of you said belongs on this list above all other weapons. Like I already said, some of you just wanted a top 10 containing nothing but this weapon. So it won't come as any surprise whatsoever when I name the Akstiletto Prime as the final weapon here, will it? Or maybe it will. So the Akstiletto Prime is a Mastery Rank 5 weapon that can be farmed by running Void Fisher missions with the right relics equipped until your parts drop. If you're lucky, of course, because you have to pray to RNG to get all of those parts. It's got decent accuracy, it's got good critical chance, it's got great status chance, but it's got a feckin' awesome fast 1.1 second reload time, which means you can deal a ton of damage, reload, and be back to killing in the blink of an eye. And when you mod it for a combination of crit and status, it becomes the powerhouse that so many of you called it before I began this video. And when you add in its fast fire rate, it deals incredibly high DPS, and it doesn't suffer from the same ammo efficiency problems like, say, the twin Grakatas suffers from. And did I mention that the Akstiletto Prime look absolutely amazing? Visually, these are fantastic, easily one of the best looking secondary weapons that we have in the game right now. So I don't know about you guys, but I like having a lot of fun when running with the Akstiletto Prime, so I find myself modding for gas just because of the high status chance and how much fun it is to watch groups of enemies walk inside that giant fart cloud and just drop dead. Especially against corpus, because the Akstiletto Prime are impact based weapons and they absolutely annihilate those funny buckethead feckers in seconds. But are they actually the best sidearm in the game? What do you guys think, best or not? Let me know in the comment section below this video. And like I said earlier, there are a lot of other weapons that deserve to be on this list, but I could only name so many. I could only name 10 in a top 10 video, or the video would be incredibly long and it would have to be a top 20 or a top 30. Now realistically, I know a lot of you will be saying that maybe there's only 5 top 10 weapons or 5 weapons that get used the most by our player base, and those would be the Lex Prime, the Brakk, the Vaykor Marelok, the Akstiletto Prime, and any one of those others that I've mentioned on the list, or maybe one that I haven't mentioned yet. But there are some worthy mentions for sidearms that I see as being as good as most of these. That's what you're seeing right now, that's the list, and even then there's probably 1 or 2 more worth mentioning as well, but my graphics on the screen right now, that list, can only hold so many names. It will be really interesting to see how Riven mods go about affecting our sidearms. Imagine a Lex Prime or a Vaykor Marelok or an Akstiletto Prime with a crit or damage increase Riven. It will be absolute nuts. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said in the last one, a lot more editing goes into these types of videos than would normally go into my 5 or 6 minute long video. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed it, or don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more Warframe, and as always, thanks very much for watching.